240 people were minutes from death. Anyone flown F-18s? The captain cried. Silence filled the cabin, until a girl raised her hand. Not a soldier. Not a pilot. An 11-year-old child in a gray jacket. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The plane shook. Flight 224 was flying over the ocean at night. 240 people were on board. Most of them were asleep. Then a loud beep came from the cockpit. Captain Robert Hale looked at his screen. His face turned pale. Something was very wrong. Two fast objects were moving toward the plane. They were not birds. They were not other planes. They were missiles, and they were locked onto the aircraft. Captain Hale had flown planes for 25 years. He had never seen anything like this before. His hands began to shake. He picked up the microphone. He needed help, and he needed it fast. He had one idea, but it felt impossible. Still, he had no other choice. He pressed the button and spoke to the passengers. Anyone flown F-18s? The captain cried into the microphone. His voice broke a little at the end. Please, if anyone on this plane has flown a fighter jet before, come to the cockpit right now. This is not a joke. We need help. The cabin went silent for 1 second. Then panic broke out. People woke up. People screamed. A woman grabbed her husband's hand. A man tried to call someone on his phone, but there was no signal. Nobody stood up. Nobody moved toward the cockpit door. In seat 21C, a girl named Meera Kapoor opened her eyes. She was 11 years old. She wore a plain gray jacket. Her hair was tied in a simple ponytail. She looked like any other child flying home from a trip. But Meera was not like any other child. She sat still for a moment and listened. She heard the captain's words again in her mind. Fighter jet. Come to the cockpit. Not a joke. She understood exactly what this meant. Around her, people were crying and shouting. A boy near the back was recording a video with shaking hands. An old man was praying quietly. Nobody was moving toward the front of the plane. The seconds kept passing, and still nobody moved. Meera unclipped her seatbelt. She stood up slowly. She was small, and her head barely reached above the seats around her, until a girl raised her hand. She did not shout. She did not wave. She simply held it steady in the air. At first, nobody noticed her. The cabin was too loud. Then a woman across the aisle looked over and saw the small girl standing with her hand up. The woman stopped crying for a second. She stared. Something about the girl's calm face made her go quiet. One by one, other people turned and saw Meera too. Slowly, the noise in that part of the cabin dropped. A flight attendant walked over, confused. She looked at the small girl standing calmly among all the panic. Sweetheart, please sit down, the flight attendant said gently. This is not the time to walk around. I need to speak to the captain, Meera said. Her voice was quiet, but very clear. I can fly an F-18. I have training. Please take me to the cockpit now. We don't have much time. The flight attendant did not believe her at first. She looked at the girl's small hands and calm eyes. Something in Meera's voice made her pause. It did not sound like a child playing a game. It sounded like someone who already knew what to do next. Follow me, the flight attendant said finally, and led her toward the cockpit door. Inside the cockpit, Captain Hale turned around, hoping to see a grown man in uniform. Instead, he saw a small girl in a gray jacket. For a moment, he said nothing. He simply stared. Sir, my name is Meera Kapoor, she said. I have flown F-18 simulators and real training aircraft for 3 years. I know how to read your radar. Please let me help you. You're a child, Captain Hale said slowly. I am also the only person on this plane who has trained for this, Meera answered. We have about 10 minutes before those missiles catch up to us. Please, sir. Let me try. Captain Hale looked at his co-pilot. She gave a small, unsure nod. He picked up his radio and called the nearest military base. He gave them Meera's name and asked for confirmation. A voice came back within seconds. Captain, this is Air Command, the voice said. We confirm her training. She is one of the best young pilots in our special program. Trust her. You do not have much time. Captain Hale set the radio down. He looked at Meera one more time. Okay, he said. Tell me what to do. Meera moved to the extra seat behind the pilots. She studied the radar screen closely. The missiles are locked onto our engine heat, she said. We need to drop into the clouds below us. When I say now, turn the plane down and to the right, both at the same time. How much will passengers feel this? Captain Hale asked. A lot, Meera said honestly. It will feel like a sudden drop. People will be scared. But it will keep us alive. I am sorry for what is about to happen. I wish there was an easier way. Captain Hale nodded. He gripped the controls tightly. Meera watched the screen and counted the seconds in her head, just like her trainers had taught her. Now, she said. The plane tipped down sharply. In the cabin, people screamed as their stomachs lifted and bags fell from the overhead bins. The plane dropped fast into a thick layer of clouds. Everything outside the windows turned gray and dark. Hold this angle, Meera said calmly. In 3 seconds, turn left, gently. Do not rush it. Captain Hale followed her words exactly. The plane turned through the clouds. On the radar screen, one of the missile signals wobbled, then lost its lock. A few seconds later, the second one lost its path too. They lost us, the co-pilot said, her voice shaking with relief. Not for long, Meera said. They will search again soon. We need to keep changing direction, just a little, every minute. Nothing big. Just enough to confuse them. For the next several minutes, Meera gave small directions. A little left. A little right. A short climb. Captain Hale followed every word without question. He had stopped doubting her the moment the plane came out of that first turn safely. At one point, a single red light blinked back onto the radar screen. It moved fast, sharper than before. Meera leaned forward, watching it closely. Her fingers tightened slightly in her lap, but her voice stayed even. One of them found our old path, she said. It's guessing now, not tracking. Captain, drop 2,000 feet, right now, and hold steady for 6 seconds after. Captain Hale did not ask why. He pushed the controls forward. The plane dropped again, and the cabin filled with another wave of frightened voices. On the screen, the red light wavered, searched, then slowly drifted away, back into its old search pattern. The co-pilot let out a breath she had been holding. That was close, she said quietly. It was supposed to be close, Meera answered. If it wasn't close, it meant we were flying too safely, and too safely is not safe right now. Captain Hale glanced at her for a second, something like disbelief still on his face, and then looked back at his instruments without another word. Then new signals appeared on the radar. Fast-moving aircraft, coming from the west. Captain, this is Falcon Flight, a new voice said over the radio. We are here to help. We see both threats. Hold your course. 10 seconds later, the 2 missile signals disappeared from the screen completely. The threat was gone. Captain Hale let out a long breath. His hands were still shaking, but this time from relief. He turned to look at Meera. She sat quietly in her seat, hands folded in her lap, looking tired but calm. "How did you know all of that?" he asked softly. "I have trained for 3 years for moments like this," Meera said. "But I have never done it in a real plane, with real people, until tonight." "You saved everyone on this flight," Captain Hale said. "We saved them," Meera replied. "You flew every turn perfectly. I only told you what to do." Captain Hale picked up the microphone one more time. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "the danger has passed. We are safe, and we are continuing our flight. Thank you for your bravery tonight." In the cabin, people slowly began to breathe easier. Some cried from relief. Some hugged the person next to them. Nobody yet knew that the reason they were alive was sitting quietly in the cockpit, wearing a plain gray jacket. When the plane landed safely 2 hours later, military officers were waiting on the runway. They walked Meera through a quiet hallway to a private room, where her mother was already waiting, eyes red from crying. "Meera," her mother said, pulling her into a tight hug. "I was so scared. I heard about the missiles on the news before I even landed here." "I'm okay, Ma," Meera said softly, hugging her back. "I'm tired, but I'm okay." A tall officer named Colonel Reyes stood by the door, watching them quietly. When the mother finally let go, he stepped forward. "Meera did something tonight that very few pilots, of any age, could have done," he said. "She stayed calm. She read the danger correctly. And she guided a full commercial aircraft through it without a single injury." Meera looked up at him. "The captain did the hard part," she said. "He trusted me, even though it was strange for him. That takes courage too." Colonel Reyes nodded slowly. "That's true. But it takes something rare to stand up when 240 people are afraid, and you are the only one who knows what to do." Later that night, once her mother had finally fallen asleep in the chair beside her bed, Meera lay awake for a while, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the sound of the cabin behind her, the crying, the fear, the way it had not stopped even after the danger passed. In training, none of that sound had ever been part of the exercise. It was only real people, in a real plane, and she had heard every second of it. She thought about the woman who had stared at her first, eyes going quiet in the middle of all that noise. She thought about the flight attendant who had not believed her, then believed her anyway. She thought about Captain Hale's hands, steady now, after shaking so badly at the start. It had not felt like training at all. It had felt heavier, and far more important. She closed her eyes and let herself rest. 3 days later, the story reached the news. A passenger's shaky phone video showed a small figure in a gray jacket walking toward the cockpit during the chaos. Within hours, people online were asking the same question. Who was that girl? The airline confirmed only a few details. A young passenger with special aviation training had assisted the flight crew during an emergency. Her name and full story were kept private for her safety. Online, people did not stay quiet for long. Some called her a hero. Some said no child should ever have been allowed near a cockpit, no matter what training she had. News channels invited experts to argue both sides, night after night, while Meera's mother turned the television off each time the debate grew too loud. "Does it bother you?" her mother asked one evening, sitting beside her on the couch. "All of them talking about you like that, deciding what they think you should have done." Meera thought about it for a moment. "A little," she said. "But none of them were on that plane. None of them heard what I heard. They can decide what they want to think. I know what happened. I know 240 people are home with their families tonight because of what we did together, the captain and me." Her mother pulled her close and did not say anything else. Outside, the evening was quiet, ordinary, the kind of evening that did not know anything about missiles or clouds or a girl who had once counted seconds in the dark, waiting for the right moment to say now. Meera went back to school the following week. She sat in her usual seat in the back row. Her teacher handed back a math test, marked with a small red circle around one answer. Meera had written the correct number, but the teacher had written a note beside it anyway. It said only one word, proud. Meera looked at it for a long moment. Then she put the test away in her bag, picked up her pencil, and got ready for the next class, just like any other student in the room.